Well, it is a family of legends. It is started with mom and dad, Helen and Stu, of course, Stu Hart, who would have been 100 this Sunday. Quite an accomplishment. He made it to 88. Still strong in his later years, wasn't he? He was still a beast of a man.
He had big, strong hands, and they're muscular, big hands. I like strong hands. You had a really strong handshake when I met you.
Sorry.
It's something. It's like character when the you know, in the hand. That picture you showed earlier of my dad like that. It's just, I would love to sculpt that. Like,
wow.
Like just some.
Yeah, he just aged gracefully, but he always stayed hard. You know, I think that's just.
He never had
testament to working hard all his life and staying physically active, and for the most part watching what he was eating and drinking, and he always stayed hard.
He never even had a cavity.
Oh, for heaven's sakes!
Yeah.
Never had a cavity or lost a tooth.
No kidding.
Yeah.
It was 1915 that young man was born, and he was born in Saskatchewan boy, came to Alberta.
Saskatoon.
Yeah, in Saskatoon. How does this guy from Saskatchewan come to Alberta and start this little wrestling family, this wrestling legacy? How did that all, I mean, I'm sure you two have had conversations with your dad about how he started and how he got to where he was.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, he grew up during the Depression and hard times. Lived in a tent for much of his childhood, and single parent with my grandfather for a number of years. But wrestling and sports kind of saved him. It got him through school and working out at the YMCA. And after his amateur wrestling was over, he went to the Second World War, and after serving there, he decided to get into professional wrestling, and that's what he did. He broke in New York and Washington, where Vince McMahon, father Jess McMahon, was promoting in Tootsmont. But anyway, that's sort of where he broke in, and then he had this idea about starting a promotion in Canada. And after he had met my mom, they decided they were going to have kids, and so they ended up having 12 kids, and then needed a big house to have the kids. But I think they must have envisioned they were going to have a large family, because he bought this large mansion, in Coach Hill, which is such a remote area of the city. And
at the time,
so it just sort of went hand in hand. He started the wrestling promotion, and then raised 12 kids, and then a number of his sons got into wrestling and really made their names there. But yeah, it was an amazing story.
We were saying earlier, I used the word guzzle with my dad. He used to say that he used to get guzzled, and when he was breaking in, when he was a kid, he used to go to the Y, and he was very taken in by this grappling, this amateur wrestling, and but he used to get stretched, like
his ears got cauliflowered.
Yeah, very young, he got. He kept going back every day, but he got beaten up horribly for before and then he became the guy that. But he was a kid, but he became the guy that was stretching them then.
Well, let's. Sorry, go ahead.
No, he just kept going back.
Yeah, he never gave up. Just he.
It's sort of what showed his hardness, because he got mauled by some of these guys, who were what we call shooters, and they would put my dad through the ringer. They would break his nose or bloody his eyes, and his ears got cauliflowered. It's emo.
But the stretching part is what he was really known for. Actually, we have some video of stretching. If you're not sure what it is, here's Stu Hart just enjoying a moment with the wrestler, just teaching him a little lesson or two about stretching.
So maybe the best way to get it into play would be to put you can put your chin in the nose and push the nose up, or in here. Or when you tend to push that, this arm is going to come up unless he's passed out. Sometimes you're on your belly.
Yeah, this is amazing.
So that's in the dungeon, which is the basement of the house, right? So you guys must have seen students come through constantly and meeting people on their way into the dungeon to train.
Oh yeah, all shapes and sizes, and men and women.
He always threaded from one hold to another, so it wasn't like he would do one hold on you and let you go. He would go from one to another to another, and it was
It's a real science.
Yeah.
It is. I know my son does this now. That's a thread through.
yeah.
You push his head into his chest, and he loses his circulation.
Diana, that looks painful.
I had to do this once to somebody.
Oh, you did not.
I did.
Yeah. And this is when he was, I'd say, in his 80s, you know, and he could still do some damage. Then he hooked the leg over the head there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have no strength when they get their hands behind their head like that. So you just play with them.
He's in his 80s, right? What we're seeing there, he's in his 80s?
Yeah.
Look at that, hey?
Imagine if my dad if they had had the UFC when my dad was in his prime. He would have been a top contender there.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. That is so incredible to see some of that stuff. I can't even imagine some of the, Kate mentioned about some of the people you've met over the years. Can you tell some of those stories?
Yeah. Also
Who came through the house?
Well, Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant, yeah.
You know, he's called seventh wonder of the world, and all the world champions, the Funk Brothers, Harley Race, Jack Briscoe, Hulk Hogan. So many of them just wanted to come up and meet my dad at his home or see the dungeon itself.
Yeah.
A number of politicians, you know, Pierre Trudeau, Peter Lougheed, through the Stampede functions, and he was a celebrity in his own right, you know, and yet he was always just very humble and laid back.
Yeah, and here's my kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Take some pictures.
Would
Ellen?
you guys be allowed to go down there and hang
Not the
out?
girls.
No, you weren't allowed to go down there.
No, the dungeon. Okay, so you've mentioned it a few times, Ross. You know, you may have heard Ross say it a few times. The dungeon. Explain the dungeon.
Well, it was in the basement, and there was these metal stairs that would lead into the dungeon, and usually the basement was always dark, you know, so it just kind of
Looked like a dungeon.
looked like a dungeon.
It's a workout
you know.
area.
Yeah, it was a workout area, and there's a wrestling mat, no ropes or turnbuckles or anything like that, but it was in a low ceiling, but you know, really ideal for just grappling or maybe a little boxing.
Yeah, my dad built some of his own equipment.
Yeah, I mean, to the side there's enough free weights and a small bench to do some bench pressing, so you can actually have a pretty adequate workout there.
The girls not allowed, though.
No,
Diana, girls not allowed.
not for that. I could go down there and work out, like do gymnastics with Owen, which my dad really praised us on, but we weren't allowed to go down there if there was a wrestling session.
This is Andre right here, isn't it?
Oh yes, Andre and Aunt Di.
Look at the size. Was he 7'1" or?
About 7'4".
7'4".
Yeah.
He was in Princess Bride. Andre was, and he was, you know, a huge Bugs
Your dad
Bunny
looks so
fan.
small.
I know. I
Compared
was
to him.
scared of Andre because
Yeah,
I
I think a
thought
lot
he
of
was
people were.
the only person that might give my dad trouble.
Challenge,
But
yeah.
I think my dad.
Is this
This is an
Abdullah?
action shot of him and Abdullah the
Yeah,
Butcher.
Abdullah, yeah.
who actually just was on a talk show praising my dad, you know, and how he got his big start in wrestling here. But yeah, there's Archie Stomper
Goldie.
Goldie and Ed Whalen.
Ed Whalen.
Yeah, this is on the
very
Stampede
young Ed
Wrestling
Whalen.
TV show. And
What a moment that must
Yeah.
have been. Now,
Yeah.
did you go to the shows for the most part?
I wasn't allowed to go till I became an adult, but Ross was allowed
yeah,
to.
I used to go every Friday night. I used to sell programs there, and then I would look forward to just watching the matches. If I was lucky, I'd the odd time get to sit at ringside and watch the matches close up. But yeah, I mean, just so many big names came through there, and a lot of Calgarians still remember, you know, Archie Goldie, Dave Rule, Abdullah the Butcher, so many big names.
That's
yeah.
how I met Davey, my
Yeah.
late husband.
Sure.
You know, I met him in my dad's house, but
Yeah.
he came to Calgary to.
The British Bulldog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He came here to learn to come
Sure.
as.
He
as
caught your eye, didn't he?
Oh, he did. I knew it. I
And what did
swear.
your dad think of that?
He was a little.
A little protective.
No
of it.
daughter of mine is going to be marrying a wrestler. Was that kind of the conversation?
Yeah, they didn't. He was my first. My first love too. My mom and dad sort of thought I hadn't seen the world yet, but yeah, been in England. That was the place, you know. Come to Canada.
He
Well,
had a great accent too, didn't he?
he did. I loved his accent.
Well, and he followed Dynamite Kid, who
Yeah.
had been so successful here, and then you know they went on to become the biggest tag team in WWF history.
Phenomenal. They had that Wigan style from England, that hard Wigan style Billy Riley's grappling, shoot fighting style, and then that acrobatics, and they came to Calgary and they learned how to work with these super heavyweights. And there's
Is that your dad with the tiger?
my mom and dad. No.
Yeah,
we used
he
to call her
Tiger Bell, but this was from the 1969 Stampede, and it wasn't even an advertised or planned event. There was a tiger that was part of one of the other Stampede events, and my dad asked the trainer, if he could wrestle it, and it was just a spur of the moment thing. Wasn't even planned, and my dad wrestled it for about 5 minutes. The tiger could have torn his head off or taken a bite at him, but it was interesting. I think my dad finally conceded to the tiger, but it was just amazing. Like he did it without any thought.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about from one big kitty to one little small kitty? Diana, you might know this little kitty. Not that kitty. This kitty right here, who. We have one of your little kitty.
Oh, yeah.
Is this one eating what's the name of your cat?
That's Rocky. He was a feral cat I rescued in Florida. He came out of the jungle.
You're feeding him lettuce.
He loves
A little bit of a smaller cat.
He's a pest about it, and it's like actually gets into the refrigerator when I open the door. He's a kale. He likes bok choy.
But you inherited this love from your dad of animals.
Oh yeah, my mom and dad were. They were nuts about their animals. We had a bear. He wasn't actually our bear, but
They had a bear.
The Terrible Ted, the
Terrible
wrestling
Ted.
bear. Yeah.
He liked ice cream.
How do you get a bear?
Yeah. Well, he's the guy who trained the bear, it's wrestling in Gene Dubois, had nowhere to keep it, and then he was going on tour to all the cities for my dad, so we had to keep it in the basement just outside the dungeon. So this bear was staying in there.
Man,
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, and I think Brett and one of my sisters would go down to see the bear, and the bear would be actually licking their toes.
He was a sweetheart.
Yeah,
He
gentle
liked
bear, but
You want a
Coca-Cola.
bear cake?
yeah.
At the wrestling, Coca-Cola, and at home, ice cream.
Oh boy, it is so great having you
Yeah.
two here.